Right, I've been, like, editing this video for a while, so I just said, screw it, we're just gonna do it live.
One minute and 41 seconds of Star Trek Into Darkness with some admittedly great music. But damn, does this movie think it's 2001?
Yeah, this is called an overture. Jeremy doesn't actually show this at all because he's terrified of copyright claims, but it was a thing in the 1960s. It's outdated by 1979, so he's right to point this out, but I am also going to point out he is a coward.
Followed by a minute and 20 seconds of nothing but credits that do nothing for nobody.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but credits give credit to the people who made the film. But cool, nonsensical sin that he does for everything. That's what makes a running joke funny, is repetition, not, comedic value. Yeah, fantastic job, Jeremy.
Hey, I never realized the Next Generation totally stole their theme song from the original Star Trek movie's opening credit score.
Yeah, they did. They sped it up a bit, but yeah, this is a recurring theme. This is like the Star Trek theme. You know? I don't know what else to say here because it's just it's baffling. Like you wouldn't sin Star Wars for reusing the same overall theme across across the franchise, but here we are at 1979, and yeah, I don't know what else to say about that one. It's just nonsensical.
Also, Robert Wise? You mean West Side Story and Sound of Music Robert Wise? Seems like the kind of guy I'd get to direct my science fiction movie. Here.
Didn't Robert Wise direct The Day the Earth Stood Still and The Andromeda Strain, two of like the biggest sci-fi things back in the day? So, yeah, sorry. Just I wrote an entire script. This is like a year later. I'm half remembering things, but yeah, it's not really a obscure. Oh, sorry, not obscure. It's not an absurd thing to get Robert Wise to direct a sci-fi film. Is what I'm getting at. So he's wrong on that account.
Here are 3 Klingon ships that, while capable of cloaking, are approaching this space thing uncloaked, which they definitely won't regret.
They definitely can't cloak. In canon, they haven't been shown to have that ability yet. You've got to remember, the only thing that came before this was the original series, so that was 1966 to 1969. So both in canon and outside of canon, the audience haven't seen a Klingon ship cloak. Right up until this point, the only ships that have cloaked are Romulan ships, to my knowledge, and maybe a couple of other kind of random Alien of the Week ships, but yeah. I mean, when you think about it, the Romulans were aliens of the week. Oh no, they did appear a few times in the original series. Never mind. But also, I do want to mention, yeah, cloaking wouldn't help them, like, at all, because they're not destroyed on their approach. Completely unopposed on their approach, they get destroyed after they start firing, which they would need to decloak to do anyway. So, yeah, this sin, even if you don't know the lore of Star Trek, it still doesn't make any sense.
Uncloaked, which they definitely won't regret. Tactical's actually standing by on future Afterburner arcade machines.
This is like a really obscure reference. I'm just thinking of the number of people who know what an Afterburner arcade machine actually is. But yeah, it does actually kind of resemble these tactical consoles, although I'm a bit confused why he isn't talking about, the reason why they're rotating, which I don't know. I don't know why they're rotating, but that would have been a better
Tactical's actually
sin.
standing by on future Afterburner arcade machines. Typical Klingon behavior. We don't know what this is, let's shoot it.
Yeah, that is... I mean, that's fairly typical Klingon behavior. It's just such a weird one. It's like, oh, characters acting within established behaviors for these characters. Better sin that. It's like, okay. Do you want them to pull out, like, a big tricorder and try and scan it? Like, what do you want? They're Klingons. Why are you sinning the fact that Klingons are acting like Klingons?
Jaws Trek. Here's one of the fakest looking.
That's such a terrible pun. I'm really sorry, but it really was.
We don't know what this is, let's shoot it.
Let's watch that again.
Jaws Trek. Here's one of the fakest looking.
I know that pun was only meant to be half a second, but Jesus Christ, like, why?
spacewalks in film history, and this movie came out almost a decade after 2001. This is unacceptable.
I think it came out more than a decade after 2001, but also, yeah, this isn't actually that bad for the most part. Like, the main point of this shot is to show the size of this station. That's why this dude exists. But if you look at this dude here, it's not actually that bad.
In film history, and this movie came out almost a decade after 2001.
It looks fine. Like, for the shot that it is, it really doesn't look egregiously out of place.
This is unacceptable.
I mean, if anything, you should really be sinning this, like, sludge over here. This is before the time of anti-aliasing, and these gaps here, I don't know what's going on with this, but I wouldn't really, compared to that, this looks awful. So, yeah, it's just like, what's wrong in this shot? It's not this guy, it's this stuff over here. I'm assuming that this is capturing my cursor.
This movie came out almost a decade after 2000.
If it's not capturing my cursor, I'm going to be very sad.
This is unacceptable.
I have an exterior visual
of a fight taking place super far away? How?
Yeah, the lady here, she says our sensor probe is picking up something on quad L14. So yeah, the film directly tells you how, Jeremy. You just decided to cut that dialogue. Very cool, very cool.
Oh. The Klingons are apparently fighting the ghost of the guitar guy from Mad Max Fury Road.
This joke is like really long to get through, and the punchline is not even that good. I know comedy is subjective, but like, I know, I guess it's not a joke where I'm meant to be falling out of my chair after listening to it, but it just strikes me as a bit of a stretch and also low effort at the same time. It's very bizarre. I don't know. I'm not. I mean, I did like a whole edited version of this, and I'd like to think I put some amount of effort into it, but I also acknowledge that yeah, a lot of my jokes won't be that good. But this just feels really low quality.
The ball of electric energy headed towards the ship is best represented by a hexagon with 6 pegs extending off of it. This is when your computer has given up.
So firstly, this is 1979. Like, for computer graphics, this looks pretty good. Secondly, like, even if this was today, this looks fine. Like, as a narrative device, this is meant to communicate to the audience that this is the big ball of plasma, and it does that quite successfully, right? But also using the solid flat design, which is what we've kind of trended towards recently, because we used to have kind of the 3D. I forgot the name of it. I used to know this stuff. I did an entire dissertation on UI design, specifically around the Star Trek UI design. Yes, I'm a nerd. But this is actually, not only is this fine, this is actually kind of, it takes a lot of modern design principles in that it's not trying to do an overtly 3D visual representation that tells you nothing, which is what a lot of these kind of holograms show you, which is why they visually they look cool, these 3D hologram UIs, but in terms of actually using them, it always feels weird because it's a spectacle, not a real life everyday thing that you'd expect people to actually use. If anything, I would say that there's no grid coordinates here, so that's maybe a bit off. And you got some random text here, which I get is to show that it's Klingon, but it would just be nice to have like actual grid coordinates. But I don't know, maybe they'd have their own version of coordinates.
Is best represented by a hexagon with 6 pegs extending off of it. This is when your computer has given up. This
Here is absolutely fine, mate. Sorry, I just want to say that again. That computer looks fine, and it actually communicates a lot to the audience.
Ball of explosiveness is way slower than the one that took down the other ship a minute ago.
So this is an interesting one. As far as I can tell, he's actually wrong.
This is when your computer has given up.
He is categorically wrong here. Because I think between the shots, this ball is at a different point, and also the camera is at a different perspective. But also, he doesn't even show the comparison shot, right? How hard is it to have a split screen showing the four or five instances where this ball of plasma is shown? Also, he says ball of explosiveness. It's not explosive. It doesn't cause explosions. It doesn't explode. But yeah, he's just wrong here on so many accounts.
Ship a minute ago. Victory fart. This movie.
Such a low effort thing. I thought he would do something like, oh, why is it, incrementing through the ship like this? And we could talk about, oh, maybe it's the distribution of the bulkheads. And maybe, the plasma does something funky with that. No, it's just victory fart. I'm sorry. I was really looking forward to actually sinking my teeth into an actual point here. But instead, it's just, oh, victory fart. I mean, maybe it could have even been like, oh, the captain keeps getting out of his chair and back into his chair throughout the course of this scene, and we're going to finally point that out here. But no, we're not. We're not going to even address that. Just victory fart.
Victory fart. This movie's planet Vulcan
Jesus
would seem to be
Christ.
super close to another large planet with a weird moon that would seem to deviate from the laws of.
He's actually right here, to be honest. Like, this planet is absolutely massive, considering how close it is. And then it also has a moon here, which is a bit weird. There's also a bunch of other stuff, the fact that Vulcan apparently has no atmosphere, and this volcanic ash is just kind of disappearing. There are a few other things in a few other shots, but he kind of vaguely picks up on one of them and then decides, actually, no, I don't care. But he was right to point this out. This is a genuine flaw, to the point where I think the director went back and redid this entire scene, redid all of the effects, so Vulcan actually has an atmosphere. Oh, sorry. Vulcan has an atmosphere, and also the planets aren't just super close.
Oh, what the do I care?
Or he can.
Yeah, he should care. He genuinely should. Anyway.
So when Vulcans have sex, do they do it logically? How do you get
Why is that the first thing you think of? I'll let him make the full point.
a boner that way?
Okay, no, never mind. That full point wasn't even that interesting. Yeah, Pon farr, which is explained multiple times in Star Trek. It's explained in the original series that came out before this, and it had the very famous episode Amok Time, I think. It's where we get like that fight music, the one that's in all the memes, or was in all the memes from like over a decade ago. Yeah, so that's one of the famous episodes. It's not even like an obscure thing, but they also go over it in. Pretty sure they cover it in The Next Generation. They cover it in. Yeah, they definitely cover it in Deep Space Nine because they keep referencing it, even though they don't have a Vulcan in their main cast. And in Voyager, they have Ensign Vorik, who undergoes it, and also Tuvok. So that's twice. And then, do they go over it in the films? I think they do, actually. In Star Trek 3, you got Spock growing up, who goes over, undergoes Pon farr. So it's definitely explained in the franchise multiple times. It's not like this thing that doesn't make sense, but some non-canon thing tries to make it make sense. No, this is explained quite explicitly multiple times in the series. Just watch the show. I don't know what else to say, just watch the show that you're watching.
How do you get a boner that way?
Typic.
A symbol of total logic is illogical, like throwing a virgin sacrifice into a sex orgy to appease the gods. I feel like they should have just given him a copy of the game Myst and said, you know what to do, and that would end the ceremony.
Yeah, I don't really know what he's saying about most of this stuff. I'm just going to address this sentence here, because everything after that is just gibberish nonsense that sounds like he's reinforcing his point, but actually he isn't. Anyway, any symbol of total logic is illogical. That's not even slightly true. Yeah, like symbols by themselves are not illogical because they signify stuff. So it's like studying for a degree and then saying, oh, well, getting a certificate to show that you've studied for the degree is a symbol of that degree and is thus illogical. No, it's not. Symbols have immense logic in all forms of society. Like having a symbol to signify a dish is vegan and vegetarian, not illogical. It's a symbol and it serves a purpose, it serves a function. Same as this, a symbol of total logic, not illogical. I mean, look at these chaps and you know the garments they're wearing. Presumably, these symbols mean something. Presumably, they show rank or achievement. Same goes for these kind of shoulder pads and yeah, like I just I I I don't know how to dispute such a stupid thing. I don't know.
Sex orgy to appease the gods.
Anyway, right, let's skip that.
So these assholes were about to tell Spock he achieved total logicness and give him the symbol of unemotional reasoning. But because the Klingon murdering space gas passed by, they found out he still has emotions and take it back. I feel like these dicks should be stripped of their power for not noticing this sooner. It's amazing.
So in the film itself, it's shown that the Klingon space gas is approaching, right? So it's kind of, you hear the Vija sound. Spock looks up at the sky. These guys here, they notice Spock is distracted, and that's when they realize, oh, what's wrong? Give me your thoughts. I want to find this out. And then after doing a mind meld, she basically says, "You've not achieved Kolinar. This thing touches your human blood," which is kind of racist, but we'll gloss over that. It was the 70s, and yeah, that's I say it was kind of racist. It wasn't really, because being half Vulcan, half human was oftentimes an allegory for being mixed race and the problems that presents. So in universe, that is kind of racist. Out of universe, it's not. So I just wanted to make that distinction because I know someone. Well, I say I know someone. This video's never going to see the light of day, to be honest. But if it does, and someone does watch it, and someone thinks, "Oh, that's not racist," that's the explanation. Anyway, yeah, I've also gone over the sequence of events that happens that leads to these people realizing Spock has not achieved Kolinar. But yeah, it's not like every morning they're like, "Okay, Spock, time for your mind meld to see if you're being influenced by, aliens from several light years away." You know, it's just so stupid. It's like, what is the point you're trying to make here? They should have noticed this thing that only happened now sooner. And even if they were, like, you could just as easily argue that it wasn't really calling to him to that extent until now. If anything, the sin here is the last minute kind of, oh, this thing calls to him from space and stops the ceremony at the last possible second, which is, I mean, that's highly specific, but something stopping something else at the last possible second is a very big cliche, and I feel like that would be a valid sin, but no, he just goes for they should have noticed this sooner, and then provides absolutely no evidence or proof or any reasoning, really, that they should have.
In a world full of matte paintings and don't. These dicks should be stripped of their power for not noticing this sooner. It's amazing how these people live in a world full of matte paintings and don't suffer some sort of depression over it. Their world was lost, but thank God someone painted it back in.
I mean, this shot doesn't last a super long time, but you can see the water is not moving here, so it's very apparent that this is a matte painting. Yeah, I'll give him a point here, fair enough. I just want it to be known that actually this overall is actually quite a nice shot.
Their world was lost, but thank God someone painted it back in.
I will say, that staircase over there, that's a bit weird. Like, this... I think it's weird because these don't match up. and then this also curves inwards. So what is going on with this staircase? Anyway, sorry.
paintings and don't suffer some sort of depression over it. Their world was lost.
So no handrails or anything. Like, yeah, sorry. Again, such a minor thing, but health and safety, guys.
But thank God someone painted it back in.
The only starship in interception range is the Enterprise.
Because Starfleet literally keeps only one ship at Earth, its home base and most important planet. Even
He keeps, like, he'll repeat this point a few times in this video, but basically, yeah, he's half got a point here, but he keeps saying the wrong thing. So the implication here is the Enterprise is the only ship equipped to deal with this in range. So they're probably going to have some, like, I don't know, they'll probably have, like, maybe... I mean, Miranda classes, I don't know if they were technically a thing at this point, but they should have some Daedalus class starships and maybe some Jupiter and Neptune classes. But, you know, like, refitted to just be, like, short-range interception craft. I don't think what they're saying here is the Enterprise is the only ship. I think they're saying it's the only ship to deal with this, because they could send a no-berth class, yes. But among being also incredibly small, its other qualities are, you know, severely lacking. So you'd really only send a no-berth class if you seriously hated the captain of that ship.
planet. Even in 1979, Hollywood could not resist the nostalgia glamour shot of something that's not even as cool as the Millennium Falcon. And
That's an interesting one. I'm not going to debate which is cooler, the Enterprise or the Millennium Falcon, because that's just such a stupid debate. But yeah, the reason they're doing this is because this is 1979. The original series was cancelled in 1969, and even when it was running, most people had only seen the Enterprise on their kind of fuzzy cathode ray tubes. So showing the Enterprise in these glamour shots here and having these long establishing shots, like, at the time, it made a ton of sense to do this. Because this film, as much as you want to, like, slate it for having these shots, it is fan service. And more importantly, it was heavily demanded fan service, right? If you take a look at the fan mail that Paramount kept, well, I say Paramount, I think it was... I can't remember who owned it before Paramount bought the rights to do movies. Or did they buy the... I'm a bit confused on the timelines for the corporate entities, but basically, someone got a lot of fan mail, and a lot of them were saying, bring back Star Trek. And so they realised, actually, most of their sales are going to be from these people, so we might as well make a film that they're going to enjoy. So that's why you have long establishing shots like this. The other reason is also the fact that production for this film was absolute hell. So they have a lot of these long establishing shots because the story beats and, more importantly, the dialogue just wasn't actually there. There are stories of them filming the scene before they have actual fully written dialogue that wasn't just like placeholder stuff, which is why you have also a lot of scenes where these people, they don't really say a lot. So you're going to see here in the shuttle scene, Kirk and Scotty, they look at the Enterprise and they look towards each other, and then they look back at the Enterprise and they have this kind of gleeful face. They don't say a lot, and I'm well, if I was a betting man, I would bet some amount of money that reason is because they just hadn't written it yet.
And man, do they ever give you
Yeah.
time to stroke it during this scene? No, go ahead. This movie is totally giving you time for that. I mean, the next shot is probably inside this ship's wide open exhaust ports for those who like close-ups. So wait,
Yeah, just why have these masturbation jokes? They're not even funny. They're just like cringe and awkward.
when they parked the Enterprise here, did everyone on board have to fly little ships to the starbase after that?
I have to stop it here, right? I just have to before he makes his full point, right? Because this is explained when Kirk beams onto this starbase here and Scotty greets him. Kirk says, "What's wrong with the transporters on the Enterprise?" And Scotty says, they're not functional, small problem, we'll have it fixed in a jiffy, and then goes on to say about the Enterprise not being ready. So that's why. So the implication here is that the transporter systems were at one point working, and now currently are not, but this is temporary, and that they will continue working, because if the Enterprise's transporters were not working for quite a long time, Kirk would probably know about that before, trying to beam up. So that's why. And also, why is this thing parked all the way out here? This is called is this space dock? No, this isn't space dock, sorry. This is a dry dock. The reason why it's parked all the way out here is because the Enterprise is being refit. And you can see that because the Enterprise has been refit. It looks different. I don't know how else to describe that. It's just common sense.
Why is this thing parked all the way out here? 4-minute sex brochure for the Enterprise ends with literal penetration at the end of it.
I mean, I don't want to say anything, Jeremy, but this isn't a tremendous amount of penetration. I'm just going to say I feel sorry for your wife. But also, I'm fairly sure this lasts longer than 6 minutes, doesn't it? Does this last I thought it lasted 6.5 minutes, no? I don't know.
Something tells me that none of this ship isn't ready stuff is going to be important until the plot demands it is.
What does that even mean? What does that... Because I'm fairly sure ship isn't ready stuff is pretty immediately relevant and important. And then it kind of gets sidelined over time because then Spock shows up and they do some engine repairs and, they kind of sort that out. But, what does this even mean? None of this ship isn't ready stuff is going to be important until the plot demands it is. It's not like they spend half the film going absolutely fine, plodding along, and then suddenly just loads of malfunctions. Like that. I don't understand what he's trying to say here, because he's not even correct. Like, what is the sin?
Ship isn't ready stuff is going to be important until the plot demands it is.
Assemble a crew on the recreation deck at 0400 hours.
On the recreation deck? Is this ship not big enough for an education deck? Or a we're up against big odds deck?
Yeah, this is just like, I think he is making a joke here. He's not actually saying, oh, why on the recreation deck? But the reason is, well, there's a couple of reasons. One, it's the only place that's big enough to have a briefing with the entire crew, something which was shown in Star Trek does not really happen that often. The only instance I can think of it happening other than this is in Deep Space Nine on the Defiant during the Dominion War. But that's because, the crew is quite small and the Defiant is quite cramped. But the other reason is also that's just what the deck is called. It's probably a multifunction room. It's like the sports hall is also the place where the school has assemblies. Back when you were in school, that's probably how it happened. So it's not like, oh, why don't we have a separate assembly hall? It's just this is a multifunction hall that is mostly used for sports, but occasionally we will hold assemblies here. Like, that's the same logic.
The scary deadly mission details have to be relayed on the damn recreation deck. That place is for fun.
Admiral Kirk.
Well, this is awkward.
Yeah, it's meant to be awkward. This is the point where Kirk relieves Decker of command, and Decker is still, blissfully unaware of the fact that this is about to happen. This is the point of the scene. It's meant to be awkward for the characters involved. If anything, this is also why Kirk says, I should be the one to tell him, because that's an awkward conversation, and he doesn't want, his bridge officer to do it. He wants to do it himself. I think Sulu says he doesn't know, and Kirk is like, alright, I'll go tell him. So this is supposed to be awkward. Shut up, Jeremy.
Placing you as captain of the Enterprise.
Starfleet made a decision to give Kirk command of the Enterprise without consulting its current captain in the matter. They felt it better to simply have Kirk drop that bomb on Decker in person.
This is such a stupid point to make. So firstly, it's heavily... No, it isn't even heavily implied. It's explicitly stated that the only reason this happened is because Kirk basically forced this down, Admiral Nagura? yeah, this Kirk forced this matter. He consulted one admiral and basically pushed his case there. So this is shown to be a last minute thing because what was it? Commander Sonak, I think his name was. Yeah, he was still under the implication that Decker is going to be the captain, and he was a bit surprised that he'll be reporting to Kirk. And by that point, it hadn't actually gone through. That was just Kirk's overconfidence, which turns out to have been not entirely misplaced. But yeah, it's shown that this is a last-minute change, but also for these changes, you don't really need to consult the current captain, because we're not shown in Star Trek that that's the standard protocol. Quite regularly, admirals will make decisions completely regardless of the current captain. Even commodores do the exact same thing in the Doomsday Machine. That's exactly what happens with Commodore Decker, funnily enough. Apparently, Commodore Decker is also meant to be related to this Captain Decker here. So allegedly, Commodore Decker was Captain Decker's father, but it's never explicitly stated, and it doesn't really need to be. It's just a fun little fan theory that was kind of confirmed in some kind of weird content that's, I don't know if it was a book or a comic or something. But anyway, they thought it better to simply have Kirk drop that bomb on Decker in person. They actually transmitted the orders to the bridge of the Enterprise, which they assumed Decker would be on. The only reason Decker doesn't know is because he's down here and he's way too busy to be disturbed. I think. But yeah, this if you just watch the film, this entire point is redundant.
Kirk dropped that bomb on Decker in person. Hell, they had a good 4 minutes of Enterprise masturbation to tell him before Kirk showed up.
Yeah, they got the paperwork pushed through in that time. That's what they were doing. I don't. Oh, but it's just watch the film. It's all explained in the film. Just watch it.
My experience. 5 years out there dealing with unknowns like this.
Wait, 5 years? That's all? I know the series was canceled early, but that's all the experience it takes to make Admiral?
No, because I'm really sorry, but no, Kirk isn't describing the steps that happened for him to become an admiral. He's describing what happened. He's justifying why he's suitable to do this mission, and the relevant things are he was the captain of this ship for 5 years, and during those 5 years he was doing stuff that was exactly like this, right? That's why he's bringing this up. That's the point he's trying to make. He's not saying, I am an admiral and these are the reasons why I'm an admiral. That's not what's being discussed here. I just feel like Jeremy just drops out of the conversation. He just loses connection and just like rejoins halfway through and says, well, actually. And it's like, no, you should actually watch what's happening before you try and make these statements.
How desperate is Starfleet anyway? Watch out, coming through. This ship just can't survive without its glass Lego.
Is this even Lego? I mean, I guess you could say it looks Lego-ish. Right? I mean, I wouldn't... Okay, whatever. He's poking a bit of light fun at a sci-fi prop that just kind of exists.
Survive without its glass Lego box thingamajig.
Oh no, they're forming.
Why did they even try to send people through this transporter thing anyway? It wasn't even considered fixed, and they just sent people through.
Yeah, it is very, very established that this was an accident. Yep, that's the reason. That's the full reason. This is a transporter accident. Lo and behold, someone did something by accident. That's kind of the definition of an accident. I feel like you don't need to have this explained to you. This is just like common sense stuff.
It's a lawsuit right there. And weren't they sending small ships to the Enterprise? Also, what a great way to get Spock back onto the ship. Just kill his replacement in some unnecessary transporter malfunction. Him.
Starfleet.
I mean, not really. You can have Spock show up and replace Sonak pretty easily, because that's exactly what happens when Decker takes on the position of science officer, and then Spock shows up, and then Decker's like, "Oh, okay, I'll step back and let you be science." So that's not really the problem they're trying to fix here. I mean, I guess you could say that maybe they're trying to do that, but it would just be super easy to have Sonak step down. Yeah, the point of this here is, funnily enough, to show that the Enterprise, in terms of functionality, is just not there. It's not ready, and that has actual stakes. So, you're setting off on this voyage, kind of on a grim note, and yeah, I think it sets the tone brilliantly. This entire sequence. It's going back to that point that Jeremy said, where it's like, oh, these technical malfunctions won't matter until the plot decides it does. This is like pretty immediately preceding that point. It's like, does he even watch these films? And the answer is no, he doesn't, because he gets Ilea's name wrong several times, and someone who's watched the film wouldn't get it wrong several times. So he's not watched the film, basically. He's just reading a script. He's not even watched the clips that he's responding to. He's just reading it. Anyway, sorry, that's just a fun little fact about Jeremy from CinemaSins. He doesn't watch these films. He just reads the script.
In some unnecessary transporter malfunction. Him.
Starfleet, do you have them?
What we got back didn't live long.
Tragic off-screen transporter deaths are supposed to remind us of the perilous nature of human life.
Sorry, this wasn't off-screen. We literally see it right here. What? The audience is present for the events that happen. Like, are you complaining that we don't see the corpse, and therefore technically it's off-screen? Because that's not really how off-screen deaths work.
Or the sorry state of the Enterprise. Or the dangers of...
He says it here. The sorry state of the Enterprise and the dangers of... He literally says it right there, and then he's like, oh, who cares? Like, are you kidding? How can you be this oblivious to just yourself?
Fucking cares. Sadness level increased 2 notches. Movie will just fucking move on.
That's really not the point. That's really not the point of this entire sequence at all. I'm really sorry, Jeremy, but you... Yeah, well, I say I'm really sorry, Jeremy. You didn't write this. So you didn't... Well, yeah, you didn't write this. Someone else wrote this. So whoever did write this, really wish you watched the film. Because there's a lot more going on than just sadness levels increase 2 notches.
Former captain is conveniently here to see Kirk get lost, and also to show off his not super impressive cock and balls. Granted, this...
Yeah, that uniform is a bit unfortunate. I'm very glad they changed it midway through the film. But also, this is him responding to, his first officer being in a transporter malfunction. Sorry, was it first? I think it was science officer, sorry. But either way, one of his bridge officers was in a transporter malfunction, and you're complaining that Decker went to the transporter room from the bridge and didn't show up in time? Like, it's not magical. It makes narrative sense. Like, what? Anyway.
Video of a seemingly Klingon ship being evaporated by the alien probe.
What do you mean, seemingly Klingon ship? This is a Klingon ship. We're shown that it has Klingons on it. Why seemingly? Why is that here?
It was alarming and scary, but who shot that video? The ship that was evaporated?
No, it was a sensor probe. We've been over this, Jeremy.
Was it live streamed via Twitch when it went missing or something? If so, how is there any video of the ship free space, eh? Wouldn't a tail-mounted camera disappear with the ship?
That's all.
Yeah, it would, but it's not a tail-mounted camera. It's literally a sensor probe. He just needs to watch the thing that he's responding to, and he wouldn't make these mistakes.
We know about it, except that it is now 53.4 hours away from Earth.
The alien probe is closer to Earth than the viewer is to the end of this movie.
Well, yeah, because the movie doesn't end when the probe reaches Earth. Sorry, I know he's making a joke that the film is long, but you just... If you're going to make a joke, make it make sense.
Enterprise is the only Federation starship that stands in its way.
That's another thing. This whole movie is predicated on the Enterprise being the closest ship to the cloud. But couldn't they call any number of ships back, use warp speed, and get here in time, and not use a ship badly in need of repair?
Yeah, it's heavily implied that it's the only ship equipped to deal with this in range. So, yeah, you could send a no-berth class, or you could send a patrol ship. But neither the ship, nor the captain, nor the crew will really be in a state to deal with it. And the I think there was an original series episode, I can't remember which one, but I think they state that there are only 13 Constitution class starships in Starfleet. So I think that's their reasoning. But yeah, like their entire job is just to go out and do exactly this. So why would you send a patrol ship with a captain who does supply runs? Just doesn't make sense.
Our orders are to intercept, investigate, and take whatever action is necessary.
Why can't our orders be delivered via shipwide audio broadcast as normal, as opposed to this everyone gather in the recreation hall in-person announcement?
Because the stakes are really high, because it's heading towards Earth. And also because it destroyed an entire Klingon battle flotilla, and also is about to destroy Epsilon 9. Yeah, there's a lot of things here that qualify for extenuating circumstances, and that's the reason why they're doing this in the recreation deck and not over shipwide announcement. And it's watch the film, Jeremy. That's all I can say. This is all abundantly clear if you watch the film.
Oh, I see. It's so they can all watch firsthand while the energy cloud destroys another vessel.
Not really. No. Like, I think I'm trying to remember if it was intentional or whether Uhura was just like, oh, by the way, we're getting a call from Epsilon 9, and Kirk's like, oh great, put it on the screen. So I'm not sure if that was intentional or ambiguous, but I don't think it was there so they can all watch him die. I think it's there because it's a briefing.
We are under attack!
External view.
But where is camera?
Sensor probe. It's been explained several times. Sensor probe.
Destroys another vessel.
We are
But also, I do want to mention very briefly, I think it's really harsh that these guys are about to die and Kirk basically hangs up on them. Like, I just thought that was really mean. And also they might have some more useful information to say about, the cloud.
under attack!
External view.
But
Yeah,
where
he just hangs up on them.
is camera?
My oath of celibacy is on record, Captain.
Did this chick out of the blue just tell Kirk she's not gonna have sex with him? That's presumptuous. But I guess Kirk...
Yeah, this one's a bit weird. So, technically speaking, like I say technically, outside of the film, because it's never explained in the film, but outside of the film, apparently Deltans are supposed to be so... what's the right way of phrasing this? Enticing, shall we say, that once you once a human mates with a Deltan, they just can't go any other way. Once you mate with a Deltan, it's supposed to be so earth-shatteringly amazing that Deltans, they don't do you just can't move on from that. So the reason why she's saying that is because Ilea and Will once knew each other. Kirk picks up on this, and she says, "Don't worry, my oath of celibacy is on record." Basically saying, "Don't worry, I haven't absolutely corrupted Decker, and he's still fit to command." Basically, it's such a stupid thing. It's a very Gene Roddenberry thing to do, but that's the backstory behind that. And the reason I'm saying this is because, like, that point is so absolutely wacky. I'm really surprised that they didn't, like, go off on a whole tangent about that, because there's so many jokes you can make about just that concept as a whole. But they just don't do it. They just go, oh, did you just say that you're celibate for no reason? Okay, that's a bit weird, haha. It's like, no, there's so much more there that you could have made fun of.
Kirk's oath of promiscuity is on record too, so maybe she's covering her bases.
Starfleet reports our last 6 crew members are ready to beam up, but one of them is refusing to step into the transporter.
Can't imagine why. I mean...
Oh, sorry, I really love just Kirk's reaction here, and like his interaction with Bones after this. It's really fun. Anyway, let's listen to his point.
Just 5 seconds ago, it turned 2 guys into Play-Doh. Guess those bugs got fixed. They transported a few monkeys, and now everything's A-okay.
Yeah, that's exactly the sequence of events. There's a transporter accident. Bones doesn't want to step into the transporter, and even though they've fixed the transporter and they've tested it and it works fine. But well done. You have described the sequence of events that happened. How is this a sin? I don't.
Turned 2 guys into Play-Doh. Guess those bugs got
that's
fixed. They
that's the
transported a few
joke.
monkeys, and now
That's the
everything's
point.
A-okay.
That's the point.
Oh my god, it's horrible. The transporter is still mangling bodies left and right, and oh, that's just Bones, isn't it?
What's wrong with Bones here? What's wrong with Disco Bones? He looks really cool. He's got his medallion. Like, what? I just don't. There's no pleasing some people really. Like, what? Disco Bones is iconic. Am I the only one who thinks Disco Bones is iconic? Okay.
Starfleet spacewalk asshole has time to do flips, waving goodbye to Enterprise, even though a deadly energy cloud is making its way towards Earth. Party.
What is this guy meant to be doing right now? That is one, like, he's saying, oh, this guy has time to do flips. Like, okay, what's he meant to be doing that's meant to help against the deadly energy cloud? Because I imagine this guy's just been absolutely rushing to get this ship sorted, right? That's what all these little space dock guys are doing. These dry dock guys are doing. So, like, the Enterprise is finally underway. His job is done, right? The Enterprise, do you want him to cling on to the side of the ship and carry on working? Like, what do you want here? He's waving the ship off, the ship that he's been working on for however many months.
Carry on, Garth. After the 4-minute wankathon involving the Enterprise earlier, movie continues to jack off a chafe population. Over.
Yeah, I already explained why these shots exist, and the fact that they're not even that bad. Like, visually, they're quite nice to look at, so... also, sorry, just going back as well, this is meant to be a sci-fi epic, right? Like, this is the genre, so you're going to have these long establishing shots of, spectacle. It's like showing up to an action adventure and then complaining there is both action and adventure. So why are you watching this,
For 36.5 minutes of this movie go by before the Enterprise even leaves space dock. In the start.
Yeah, you're right. Quite a lot of this happens during space dock because that's kind of a plot point of the film, trying to get the Enterprise ready to launch. Like, it would be astronomically awful if, and that pun was not initially intended, but I'm glad I made it. But it would be terrible if the film was like, oh, the Enterprise has so many technical issues, we can't get underway, and then 30 seconds later they're off at warp speed. Like, that would just be terrible. So that's the reason why they created that plot point, create tension, create friction between Kirk and Decker, where Kirk, is pushing the crew, and Decker is kind of watching on the sidelines. Bones is kind of saying, you're pushing too hard, and yeah, in the audience's eyes at least, you create a sense of, oh, well, maybe Kirk isn't actually in the right here to be pushing this hard, because quite regularly here, or at least in a few notable moments, Decker is in the right. Anyway, this is a valid point. Yeah, you got Jupiter here. I think. Hang on, is this a? No, I don't think this is a valid point. Actually, this is Jupiter and all of its moons, and Jupiter is very famous for having a lot of moons. It's like 51. Is it? I can't remember. But yeah, is this a valid point? I'll give it to them. I'll give Jeremy this point because it does look a little bit too convenient. I mean, Jupiter's moons in relation to Jupiter should be much smaller than this.
Star Trek world, all our solar system's planets are super close to each other to create dynamic visuals. Over a minute of wormhole technobabble gibberish. Wormhole.
When you say technobabble gibberish, quite a few important things are actually said
super close
here.
To each other to create dynamic visuals. Over a minute of wormhole.
So one of those important things is the amount of time it'll take to exit the wormhole, and the fact that they will collide with the asteroid before they exit the wormhole, right? those things are both mentioned during this scene.
Technobabble gibberish.
Wormhole distortion has overloaded the main power systems.
But cameras showing us the wormhole and the asteroid outside are amazing in clarity for some.
Well, are they powered by the main power systems? Probably not, because to operate a camera, it takes far less power than to power like the engines in the warp drive and what have you. Like, I'm really sorry, but it's like I don't even know what point he's trying to make here. It's like, oh, should the camera be powered by the main power, and as soon as main power goes out, your ship is totally blind? Is that what he's saying should happen?
For some reason.
Mr. Chekhov, stand by on phasers. No! Delay that phaser order!
Amazingly, Chekhov obeys, even though Decker breaks the chain of command.
No, just no. I'm going to stop this one early. No. The chain of command in Starfleet is not this rigid, inflexible thing where everyone must do exactly as the captain says, right? Decker is the, he's the first officer in this instance, but also it's rather explicitly stated in conversation that Decker is being kept on because Kirk doesn't know the specifics of this enterprise. And I'm guessing Chekhov also is aware of this kind of engine quirk, where if you use the phasers at warp, bad things happen. But no, the chain of command is not broken here because, the captain is not, universally correct and should always have their orders followed, even when their orders don't make sense. So it's the difference between the Soviet army and the Western armies, right? So in the Soviet armies, you get orders and you follow those orders to the letter, even if by the time you receive those orders, actually those instructions are outdated, or even that the orders themselves, they didn't, the generals at the top don't have the information required to actually give correct orders. So in America in particular, the American Army, they have a lot of emphasis on what are they called? They're kind of I'm not sure what they're called. Like is it the NCOs, the non-commissioned officers? I'm not sure, but basically, you got these kind of platoons, and they have their leaders, their commanders, their whatever you want to call them. And yeah, if their orders don't make sense, or actually there's a way they can exploit the situation to a much better effect, then they will do that. And most importantly, they're not punished for not following orders, provided that they at least had reasonable justification to do so. So it's not a matter of, oh, you didn't follow orders, but you were successful, so we're not going to punish you, as opposed to you didn't follow orders and you weren't successful, so we are going to punish you. It's, did you have a reasonable amount of information to not follow orders and instead do something else? So anyway, sorry, it's a very long explanation for why this point basically is just bogus, and it shows that, Jeremy is talking out of his arse. He does not know what the chain of command is in the Star Trek universe, or just like common sense stuff. I say common sense, it's maybe not common sense, but if you're going to start talking about the military chain of command and dictating it to others on a video that gets over 1 million views, maybe get your facts right.
Man, and Kirk, who is the captain, does not object.
Kirk, who's the captain, does not object. Yeah, because it's not going to start having an argument on the bridge. He's going to say, okay, well, Decker's raised this for a reason. We don't exactly have time to sit down and have a little debate. Let him do his thing, right? This is all about what being command is about. I mean, even in the original series, you see quite regularly, Kirk is not the leader because he knows everything. Kirk is the leader because he knows when to let other people, exercise their technical expertise and knowledge. And in this instance, Decker has exactly that technical expertise and knowledge that saves the ship. Like, you see this all throughout Star Trek, not just in the original series, not just in this film. This is like a staple point of the entire franchise of what it is to be a leader. Up until Discovery happens, where Burnham just can do everything. Then it goes downhill because it's like, okay, what's a leader now? It's just someone who's good at everything.
If you're wondering why a 2.25-hour movie is so long, look no further than the extended Everything Everyone Sees is Super Slowed Down wormhole scene.
This scene doesn't last that long. I'm just gonna say it now. It doesn't. It really doesn't take up that much of the runtime.
Why does blowing up the asteroid take them out of the wormhole? Or is that a coincidence? Either way, it's simple as like.
It's not a coincidence. It's explicitly stated during the part where you said, "Oh, random wormhole gibberish. That's complete nonsense." No, that's when it was explained. So maybe if you paid attention to the film, you would know that.
Riker and Troy, whom these two clearly inspired, the former captain and the new helmswoman, can't help but be drawn to each other due to their complicated romantic past.
Am I going insane, or did he just describe the film there for a few seconds? Like, he is just describing the film. It's like, okay, well, yeah, these two did inspire Riker and Troy, because Star Trek Phase 1 was a thing, then that got turned into this film, and then, TNG happened and they still wanted that dynamic, so that's what they settled with. And he's just describing the film here. I wouldn't even say it's a complicated romantic past, but I get what he's getting at here. But he's just describing the film, right?
Former captain and the new helmswoman can't help but be drawn to each other due to their complicated romantic past.
Non-belligerency confirmed.
How do futuristic scanners account for the ship's belligerency levels? So
that laugh, Jesus Christ. I'm really sorry, that was one of the fakest laughs I've heard in a while. Anyway, no, he confirms non-belligerency. He's not saying the ship has belligerency scanners. So he basically confirms that, yes, this is a transport, the authorization codes are valid, and they don't have any, hidden weapons or explosives or whatever. He's done a security scan. Everything's cool, everything's chill. There isn't like a group of armed Klingons ready to board the ship. That's all he's saying. Non-belligerency confirmed. That's all that means. So I'm really sorry I had to explain this to Jeremy, and by extension the audience, or at least the audience of this video, all 5 of you.
How do futuristic scanners account for the ship's belligerency levels? So Enterprise went into warp, hit a wormhole, ended up God knows where, then proceeded toward the target on impulse power. And Spock and his tiny freighter ship were able to watch all that and put themselves directly in Enterprise's path? Do I have that right?
Kinda, yeah. Yeah, except for this part here, ended up God knows where. The assumption is they were thrown off course, but, not by a tremendous amount. Because they do have to recalculate and also readjust their, their course. But it's not like, yeah, if they ended up God knows where, then that would have been a bigger plot point. That would have been like, oh god, we're like however many light years away from our previous position. Like in Voyager, they're like, oh, we're 70,000 light years or 700,000 or whatever it was. That's not a thing here, so it's implied that they got knocked off course and delayed a little. But yeah, the sequence of events are, this shuttle was going to intercept the Enterprise, so what happened here just kind of happened. I don't know what point he's trying to make here. Like, this is such a series of unlikely events for any of this to happen. It's like, no, this was... it's not like all of this had to happen for the shuttle to catch up to the Enterprise, because we're not shown that is the only reason Spock was able to catch up. It's kind of implied that actually they needed to pass by Vulcan anyway, so yeah, Spock was going to intercept them anyway.
Warp, hit a wormhole, ended up God knows where, then proceeded toward the target on impulse power. And Spock and his tiny freighter ship were able to watch all that and put themselves directly in Enterprise's path? Do I have that right? The 70s, when you could only...
Also Spock says he was monitoring the Enterprise's communications with Starfleet. So, yeah, but it's explicitly stated in the film exactly how that happened. This is like a dual lens thing. This is the worst example of it, but it is used in the film at other points, and it works quite well. It's just this part here looks quite bad. So you know what, I'll give him this point here.
Focus on the close-up guy and the guy in the background by blurring out half the screen.
Thanks to Mr. Spock's timely arrival and assistance, we have the engines rebalanced into full warp capacity.
I'm calling it Spock Ex Machina. Thank God he failed miserably at logic.
Yeah, no. So if you listen to the actual thing,
To Mr. Spock's timely arrival and assistance, we have the engines
assistance.
rebalanced into full warp capacity.
I'm calling it...
Yeah, he also says repair time, and then he gives the number of hours. So, firstly, Spock assists Scotty. Secondly, in the film, Scotty does state that it can be fixed because it is an engine in balance, right? So it's not stated that this is outside of the capabilities of Mr. Scott here. It's explicitly stated in the film that Spock is not the only reason they're able to get underway. He assisted and shortened the repair time. But, yeah, Jeremy here seems to think that, Spock shows up and fixes everything, even though they state in the film that it does still take several hours. Like, just watch the film, Jeremy. Jesus Christ.
It's Spock Ex Machina. Thank God he failed miserably at logic.
Warp point 8. Warp 6.
More than 30 seconds of speeding up. This new...
Well, yeah, because this is a big moment in the film where they're seeing if the repairs actually worked. In this new plot development, Kirk put on a new shirt. Did you miss the point where they said several hours had eclipsed? I think you might have. Like, Kirk had ample time to go change. In my personal headcanon, I imagine Bones probably told Kirk, you know what, go chill. Go chill in your quarters for a bit. You're being too micromanagement. You're being too pushy. But it's really not unfeasible that in however many hours passed, I think it was over 12. So that's like a full working day and then some. Like, yeah.
Plot development required Kirk to put on a new shirt. Is Uhura holding on to her workstation during this...
Yeah, she is.
Warp speed increase, because looking at everyone else, that is completely unnecessary, and I'm figuring wouldn't help much either. Warp speed increase. New plot development required Kirk to put on a new shirt. Is Uhura holding on?
It's kind of implied that, she's bracing for impact, and that's completely unnecessary because no one else is bracing for impact. And it's like, this isn't bracing for impact. I don't know what universe you're in, but this just looks like she turned around. I would hold my desk like this if I just swiveled in my chair. She's not bracing for dear life.
To her workstation during this warp speed increase, because looking at everyone else, that is completely unnecessary, and I'm figuring wouldn't help much either.
I believe it may hold my answers.
Well, isn't it lucky for you that we just happen to be heading your way?
Bones would be amazing at CinemaSins.
Well, Bones is funny, charming, likable, and he does make arguments, and some of those are correct. He does make some reasonably correct points. I didn't think any of those things were something that was. I don't think that Jesus Christ! I need to learn how to talk. I don't think any of that is actually valued at CinemaSins. Yeah, very unlikable, not particularly amusing or charming or funny, and oftentimes incorrect. Unless CinemaSins is actually aiming to be like Bones, I think Bones would not do very well at CinemaSins because, he would say things that were vaguely funny and charming and sometimes correct.
Energy of a type never before encountered.
Then how can you even read the existence of said energy? You have scanners that can read energy regardless of type?
Yeah. That's kind of how energy works. So imagine it like you are in let's say you're looking at a pond, right? And you see ripples on the pond. You don't know what caused those ripples, but you know that it had a cause, and so you can measure the the kind of reality of the ripples and say, well, we can't measure the source or define the source, but that doesn't mean the ripples don't exist. So kind of in a similar vein, I suppose. In submarine warfare, you can measure the sound of submarines, even though you might not necessarily have encountered those submarines before. Again, it's just measuring things that you've not measured before does not necessarily mean that the methods you use to measure them are completely foreign and new. It just means that the definition of what you're measuring is not yet defined. Anyway, it's just like it's not even a basic sci-fi concept. This is just a basic concept of just life, you know.
That can read energy regardless of type?
The new screen's held.
These screens are so powerful that I don't want to see this ship have trouble with an enemy torpedo ever again.
They don't. I'm really sorry to say, they don't have trouble with an enemy torpedo, not while their shields are up. Usually they have trouble with multiple enemy torpedoes. You know, Star Trek 6 springs to mind. You know? Like, what is this sin? Because it's like he hasn't seen the rest of the films, but he's like, oh, I don't want to see this ship ever struggle again. And the sin is like implying that the ship does struggle in the future when it doesn't. Not with a single torpedo, at least.
I mean, damn.
Our previous transmission mode was too primitive to be received. I am now programming our computer to transmit lingua code at their frequency and rate of speed.
How does raising the frequency and rate of speed make the primitive lingua code turn into advanced lingua code? And how do you increase that with the current technology on board? Primitive
code at their was too primitive to be received.
Torpedo ever again. I mean, damn.
Our previous transmission mode was too primitive to be received.
Yeah, so Spock says our previous transmission mode was too primitive to be received. Not that they were transmitting primitive lingua code and advanced lingua code, right? So he just says the transmission mode. And the implication there is actually, you know, it's like you have a router, right? And most routers will have, like, what is it, a 2.4 gigahertz setting and a 5.1 gigahertz setting. And, you know, you've got devices that are, I think the 2.1 gigahertz setting is also known as legacy mode. So that is where older devices that, you know, they can't transmit on that higher frequency. They need to transmit on the lower frequency. That's what they use. So the idea that a starship can transmit on multiple frequencies or even have a variable frequency transmitter, not exactly, you know, unreasonable expectation. And also, yeah, they never say primitive or advanced lingua code, they just say mode of transmission. So Jeremy just hasn't watched not even the film. I'm just debunking this using the clip they've included as part of the sin. That's all I'm doing here.
I am now programming our computer to transmit lingua code at their frequency and rate of speed.
How does raising the frequency and rate of speed make the primitive lingua code turn into advanced lingua code? And how do you increase that with the current technology on board?
We can't withstand another attack.
That thing is 20 hours away from Earth.
You know, I'm a casual Star Trek fan, and I always thought when people made fun of William Shatner's line ratings, they were exaggerating. But, no, they got it right.
Yeah, that is how he talks. At least when he's trying to deliver like a very dramatic line. That, yeah, some people like it, some people don't. It is a meme. I think in Shatner's old age, at least, he's lent into the meme. But yeah, I don't really know how to feel about this sin because it is subjective, and like on one hand, making fun of Shatner is very funny, and then on the other hand, like the actual performance here is pretty solid. Like, this is the character that Captain Kirk is. It would be weird if he wasn't doing this, you know? It's like, yeah, it's a bit weird, you know? It's like you're sinning the thing that well, one of the things Kirk is iconic for. So this is one of the reasons why he's popular.
You know, I'm a casual Star Trek fan, and I always thought when people So here's a 4-minute section completely devoted to flying through blue and green Apple II graphics, and a collection of reaction shots that are supposed to instill some sense of wonder into the viewer, but really makes them wonder if The Empire Strikes Back can come soon enough. People often ask what makes this movie.
No. So a lot of these effects, again, for the time, very cool. Today, I'd say they've definitely aged a bit, but to be honest, like this is a sci-fi epic. You're gonna get these long shots of spectacle, and you're also gonna have the soundtrack going on in the background, which rather painfully is muted here. With the music, it is really quite a good scene. But yeah, this is just one of the realities or the quirks of this genre of film. So it's a bit weird that you're it's a bit weird that Jeremy is poking fun at this. It's like, well, this is kind of why people watch these kind of films.
Devoted to flying through blue and green Apple II graphics, and a collection of reaction shots that are supposed to instill some sense of wonder into the viewer, but really.
See, that's the thing. He says supposed to instill some sense of wonder. It's like, I get the feeling Jeremy watched this on his phone or his tab. Well, no, Jeremy didn't watch this, but whoever wrote this watched it on like a film or a tablet on a phone or a tablet on speaker. No earphones, nothing like that. And it was just like, yeah, this is really bad. And it's like, well, yeah, if you watch it on a crappy screen with like bad surround sound, then yeah, this film that relies on spectacle and audio is going to come across as bad because that's what it relies on. So I really get the feeling that whoever wrote this just didn't watch this in the correct way. It sounds super pretentious saying that, but genuinely, you need a decent set of headphones or a decent surround sound system and a decent monitor, right? It doesn't have to be massive, but really, you can't watch this on your phone. It's not a phone film.
Makes them wonder if The Empire Strikes Back can come soon enough. People often ask what makes this movie bad, and I often point to sequences like this that do nothing but prolong the movie without adding anything.
Yeah, it adds pacing, and again, this is just part of the genre. Spectacle is part of this film. Like I don't know what else to say. But I will note here, people often ask what makes this movie bad. So here is very like the tagline of Cinema Sins is, we enjoy films, but no film is without sin. So we're not, deliberately shitting on films and saying they're bad. We're just saying, oh, well, these are the things that the film doesn't do well. But then you've got lines like this where they kind of state that this film is bad as a fact. It's just, yeah, just a really weird kind of stance to take, or it's like, oh no, I'm really impartial, I'm not saying the film is bad, I'm just saying these are the things it doesn't do well, and then in the actual videos it's like, no, this film's bad, it stinks, and then gives super subjective takes which just show a basic misunderstanding of the genre as a whole.
Northern Lights ribcage. Wait, what?
Yeah, that was a really bad joke.
We're closing on it rapidly, Captain.
Well, you could have fooled me. Seriously.
Actually, in the scene immediately, not even scene, sorry, in the shot immediately following that, you do see the Enterprise closing on the ship quite rapidly. So, well done for cutting early, I guess, and not showing that, and then adding a little sin.
We're closing on it rapidly, Captain.
Well, you could have fooled me. Seriously, what the f***? This is a nearly 1 minute long unbroken take as they approach this ship in the middle of the cloud. I'm adding 20 sins for this movie's inability to cut the length of its awe and wonder shot.
Alright, here's the thing, right? So firstly, I've already explained spectacle, sci-fi epic, part of the genre, but also he's adding 20 sins to this, even though a fairly big chunk of his sins already, or at least in the past kind of 5 minutes, has already been just, these awe and wonder shots, right? He's already sinned this. So he's adding 20 sins just for this one type of shot that keeps coming back. So does that mean he's not going to sin this type of shot anymore? And the answer to that is no, he is going to continue doing that. So he's going to add 20 sins for absolutely no reason.
I'm pretty sure I've seen these exact Sulu reaction shots in the previous 10 minutes of Nothing This Movie Calls a Film. Ditto.
Nope. I did watch through it, and those shots are different.
For the hot bald chick. And at one point during this excruciatingly long sequence, Bones walked in for a moment, then walked back out. Probably because the filmmakers didn't want to worry Trek fans that he'd die in the length of time it took to navigate this alien cloud.
Yeah, no, it's funny, but he cuts the part where Bones actually does provide something. So he does actually. It's a bit weird that he comes in, just to do that and then leaves. But it's not like he comes in, does nothing, and then leaves immediately, like this video implies. So basically, he gives Kirk a look, basically because. I'm trying to remember now. This is off the top of my head, but I'm fairly sure Decker says to Spock, "Why are you so averse to trying?" in reference to trying to break free and stop being pulled into Vija. And then Bones gives Kirk a look, and this kind of is a reference to the conversation they had earlier where they're discussing whether Spock can put his personal feelings aside and do what's good for the ship. Because the question here is, can we trust Spock to, to keep the ship safe and to continue the mission and not, want to get closer to whatever's calling him?
The script here literally says, nothing happens for 10 pages, and is followed by 10 blank pages.
Yeah, it's funny he says that, because one of the reasons why we do have a lot of these kind of shots is, the script, the film went through production hell, so there were scenes where they shot it without a script. So I suspect some of these scenes, exactly that. They didn't have a script.
Just glowing, spiky, egg sack balls of meaninglessness. Hooray for science fiction!
I think he just wanted to make a joke here, but it's like...
It's followed by 10 blank pages.
It's
glowing, spiky,
kind of... Again, if you're into Star Trek and you're into all these nerdy things, you could look at this and say, well, okay, for the massive ship that this is probably like impulse domes, right? Because that's usually where impulse domes sit, is near the impulse engines. So that's probably what these are.
Exact balls of meaninglessness. Hooray for science fiction!
Don't interfere with it!
Unnecessary orders.
Not really unnecessary, no. I don't know why he thinks that's unnecessary.
When something finally does happen in this movie, it looks like this.
Like how he says that and then just kind of cuts out a lot
Unnecessary
of the film.
orders. When something finally does happen in this movie, it looks like this.
Yeah, he cut out a massive part of that sequence there. Like that, a lot of things happened there. He just cut.
Not one person in the crew shrieks in terror after that.
They would have in Star Trek Discovery, and that's why Star Trek Discovery is worse. But also there was quite a bit of yelling and calling out during the actual, during the actual probe scene. So it's not like everyone just sat around politely watching.
Hey, look, Bones came back. Yay for Bones. Oops, there he goes again. Bye, Bones. Hopefully.
Yeah, no, he does come in, he does something, and then he does leave, but he does actually do stuff.
They give you a line next time.
Yeah, they did give him something to do. It's not like he came in and then just left.
What the f is this screen showing? Blue spiky things? It's more worth...
Hold on, why did he include this shot here? Like, this is a really beautiful shot, but why is this in his video? I don't understand.
What the f is this screen showing? Blue spiky things? It's more worthless than the shapeless honeycomb bullshit screens to the...
Like how he has these massive arrows as well, as if we can't see what he's referring to, but... You can say this about pretty much all of the computers in Star Trek, because that's what they are. They're set dressing. You know? That's all it is.
Right.
The aperture is closing.
Reverse angle on the view, Captain.
The alien ship closes its sphincter, signaling a lack of interest in interstellar anal sex.
Why the sex joke? Like, you do realize this is what rating is this film? PG-12? Maybe a U? Maybe just PG? I don't know, but I mean, kids watch the film and kids watch your channel, so why are you making jokes about anal sex?
Tractor beam has released us, Captain.
You are now free to move about the interior of the alien ship.
Is this meant to be a joke, or is this... I don't really know what he's trying to say here, but the only thing I can think of is this is a joke, and the honest answer is I don't get it. Unless this is like you're free to move about the inside of the cabin, but it's such a... I don't get the parallels, I guess. Like, usually there's meant to be a punchline, or a setup, or just an amusing little... It's just a remark. It's not funny. I don't... And I do understand I'm not meant to be rolling on the floor every single time he makes one of these jokes, but if I think about it and I don't get it, it's probably not a great joke.
Maneuvering thrusters, Mr. Sulu. Ahead 1/3.
They are still flying towards this thing. I'm not just being a snarky asshole when I say this whole thing could have been cut in half.
Well, what do you mean this whole thing could have been cut in half? Because you'd lose a lot of the pacing, a lot of the spectacle, and to be honest, the film would be worse off for it. But, like, this is to get a sense of this is a truly massive ship. If you cut it in half, you don't get that sense of scale, and so a lot of the things that happen after the film just don't really feel that important.
They are still flying towards this thing. I'm not just being a snarky asshole when I say this whole thing could have been cut in half.
You absolutely are being a snarky arsehole, I'm very sorry.
The Kirk unit. You will assist me.
Girl who seemed like a computer the entire movie comes back possessed by the alien and still seems like a computer.
No. She didn't seem like a computer in the rest of the film. She just spoke with an accent. That's it. Yeah, there's not much else to say here.
Look, just as a practical matter, she left the ship in a Starfleet uniform, and she returned into a sonic shower in a white mini dress straight out of my preteen fantasies? What?
Actually, here's the thing, right? She actually appears without clothes. Kirk presses a panel behind him. Let me see if I can get a shot of the panel.
Still seems like a computer. Look, just as a practical matter, she...
Just mute this. So just kind of down here, I think there is a panel that Kirk messes with, and basically that puts some clothes on her. And also apparently gives her high heels. Yeah, if anything, you want to be sinning that, just not the fact that she's wearing a dressing gown. I swear, is there not a shot?
like a computer the entire movie?
I don't think there is, no.
White mini dress straight out of my preteen fantasies? One thing's for sure, this alien is a teenage boy.
Jim,
Well, I get that's a joke, fair enough.
what's going on?
Tricorder.
I'm the ship doctor, but I don't actually carry a tricorder.
You know what? Valid.
Tricorder.
I'm the ship doctor, but I don't actually carry a tricorder.
Carbon.
So this guy, I think is meant to be a Marine. This is something that they wanted to have in Star Trek for a while. Got in the films, and then it kind of stayed in the original series films. You don't really see Marines elsewhere. This is like a naval thing that they wanted, but yeah, this guy's carrying a medical tricorder, and the chief medical officer is not. That's a valid sin. I think that's one of the first genuine valid sins I agree with.
Based units.
Humans, Ensign Perez.
Jesus, who did this guy to get on this ship?
I'm assuming what he means by this is Ensign Perez doesn't know what carbon-based units is, and that means he's dumb. But this guy is a Starfleet Marine. He really doesn't need to know much science. So, like, yeah. Who did this guy? I assume he wasn't put here based on his scientific abilities.
A thorough examination of this probe might provide some insight.
Admit it, you just want to see the sexy android naked.
I'm programmed to...
What? Did I miss something?
Who did this guy to get on this ship?
A thorough examination of this probe might provide some insight.
Admit it, you just want to see the sexy android.
What? Okay. I think this is just Jeremy making another nonsense, dirty joke, so I'm just gonna move on.
Naked.
I'm programmed to observe and record.
Why does an alien race so advanced to be able to incapacitate and capture the Enterprise still need to send a humanoid observer probe thing onto the ship to determine the fate of its new captive? God
A lot of things. He said a lot of things here. So, an alien race. Well, they're not an alien race. Vija is just one single entity that is not actually a species. It's just a probe. So advanced. Well, it is advanced. Incapacitate and capture the Enterprise. I don't think they incapacitated the Enterprise. I'm fairly sure the Enterprise is still in full, control of its capabilities. It's not been incapacitated. They still have, weapons. They still have shields. They still have engines. The degree to which they'd be useful against Vija, yeah, we can have a discussion about that. But just being, pitted against a vastly more powerful adversary doesn't mean you are incapacitated right off the bat. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at this moment they're not even in a tractor beam. I think they were released. So they're not incapacitated. Still need to send a humanoid observer probe thing on board the ship to determine the fate of its new captive. Like, how else do you want them to do it? I don't know. Like, if you want to interact with the crew, like, are you going to do that by Morse code from one of the lights on the inside of the ship? Like, what? I don't know. It just feels like of course you're going to send like an emissary or something.
Incapacitate and capture the Enterprise still need to send a humanoid observer probe thing onto the ship to determine the fate of its new captive.
I think it's not trying to decide the fate of its new captive. It's trying to understand the new captive. I feel like that's the reason why they're there. No? Is that not the reason why the Vija sent a probe?
Goddamn, this movie is in love with that double focus shot with blur all around the edges. Must have been new technology at the time or something.
I think it happens like, you only see the egregious blur like a couple of times in the film, but it's kind of making it sound like, at least a 47th time. No, actually, the film uses it quite a lot to really good effects where you don't have this blur, but there are times where the blur does exist, yeah.
This is at least the 47th use of it in this movie.
I have recorded enough here.
I just needed 5 minutes of bullshit data to complete my...
Nope. She says here referring to medical bay, where she's being scanned, because they want her to sit still while they scan her.
My job. I'm really glad.
So...
I have recorded enough.
Yeah, what she says here, as she points to Kirk, is "You will assist me further," or something like that. You will show me more of the ship. So that's what she means when she says "here." So again, this makes me think Jeremy's not actually seen the film.
Here.
I just needed 5 minutes of bullshit data to complete my job. I'm really glad this unfeeling alien entity, whatever it is, decided to keep Ilya's high heels on.
Yeah, it's not Ilya, it's Ilea. Secondly, Ilea was never shown to be wearing these high heels. Yeah, this is something that was added via Kirk's weird little panel that apparently dresses people in the shower.
During the information gathering process for utmost sexiness.
All those vessels were called Enterprise.
Didn't the probe say she was done recording? The f*** is she doing now?
She says she's done here as in medical bay. I don't really know what else to say here. So I'll just say some fun little trivia here. So all these ships were named Enterprise. This here was actually the original concept for the Enterprise. And the reason they didn't use this is because it was too fragile to film with, so they used this model instead. But yeah, this was kind of attached via some very spindly little things. But this was going to be like the warp ring, and then kind of at some point afterwards, you see Vulcan ships using the same ring warp nacelle design. But yeah, that's just a fun little bit of trivia.
This is one of the games.
Floor-based Guitar Hero.
Not really. Like, you know what? Credit where it's due. You tried to make a joke, but this isn't really Guitar Hero, because you're supposed to hit the things as they reach the bar, you don't control the thing as they drop. So this isn't really Guitar Hero, it's more like a weird version of Tetris, maybe.
Base Guitar Hero.
Within you are the memory patterns of a certain carbon unit. If I can help you to revive those patterns, you could understand our functions better.
That is logical. You may proceed.
What? That is totally not logical. Your computer brain would not allow the possibility that anything Ilya is still alive at all. In fact,
Yeah, Ilya. No, it's not. It's Ilya.
You said that unit no longer functions just a minute ago.
Yeah, so she says that unit no longer functions. That's true. But that doesn't mean that the probe, the Ilya probe, doesn't contain those same memory patterns, because it's never denied that the probe is a duplicate, I just, these two things are not mutually exclusive. So it's not saying nothing of Ilya exists. It's saying that unit no longer functions. I'm an exact duplicate. It's just really stupid. Like, Jeremy, watch the film, please. I implore you.
I'm passing through a connecting tunnel. Apparently a kind of plasma energy conduit.
Who is he talking to? Also, none of this danger...
Yeah, he's making a recording. That was made very clear.
...looking electricity frightens me in the least as I fly my...
Yeah, have you heard of a Faraday cage? Because you also might be interested in learning about Faraday suit.
My thruster suit through it.
I must try to mind meld with it.
Can you mind meld through spacesuit gloves, though?
Yes. I'm fairly sure in the original series at one point Spock manages to mind meld with something through several feet of concrete. So it's established in Star Trek that that is something you can do.
Well, I guess you can mind meld with that alien thing through a spacesuit. Who knew?
Everyone knew.
Who allowed Kirk to come out here?
What do you mean, who allowed? He's the captain. Who's going to stop him?
There are at least 3 Starfleet regulations about the safety of captains being ignored right now.
Nope. Those come about in the Next Generation, which is why Picard mostly remains on the ship. The regulations about captains not going on away missions, they're not there in the original series or the original series films, which is why Captain Kirk goes down to the, on away missions so often. Yeah, this is such a stupid point to make that demonstrates that he just hasn't watched Star Trek.
And we're being robbed of the scene where someone tried to stop him and Kirk told him off in triumphant fashion. Good thing.
No, what? That would just be cringe. Oh, sir, you can't go out on there. I'm gonna go out because it's Spock. Like that would just play out so awfully. And we're talking about pacing of the film as well. Like, we're taking away the events that kind of Spock goes through just to kind of go through like some weird little fantasy thing with Kirk that you want to happen. I just, no, that would be terrible. Like, and also, who would actually tell Kirk off for doing that? Bones would be like, yeah, go out there. You got to go out there for Spock. He's our friend. Decker would be like, yes, Spock is like, one of the top, dudes in Starfleet. He's a really good science officer. Go out there and save him. I think the only thing I could think of is maybe someone might say, no, send someone else out there instead. But that I don't think that would really happen. So genuinely, just it's such a stupid remark to make.
Off in triumphant fashion. Good thing the unfeeling living machine decided to somehow spit out the unconscious Spock to safety.
What do you mean somehow? Like, we're shown this machine has tractor beams. Somehow. What? And we were also shown Spock was thrown back after the mind meld as well, so even if they aren't tractor beams, his own inertia would carry him back. Like, are you dumb? I feel like you might be dumb.
To Spock to safety.
The Creator has not answered. The carbon unit infestation is to be removed from the Creator's planet.
V'ger never once considers that the carbon units are its creator, which they ultimately are, and which V'ger ultimately accepts for no reason.
No, V'ger doesn't accept this for no reason. V'ger actually has quite a lot of difficulty accepting this, and is the whole reason why Kirk and friends need to go to V'ger to physically, go to the probe to prove that they are the creators. Because V'ger just doesn't think this is true. So it doesn't accept this for no reason, and it's very clear Vija considers carbon-based units, humans, to be an infestation and to be vermin. So why would you immediately think, oh, they must be my creator? Like, you wouldn't, Vija is shown that to think that machines are the only form of, truly intelligent life.
V'ger is stupid.
The vessel, V'ger, obviously operates from a central brain complex.
Obviously.
Well, you say obviously, like, Spock was in contact with V'ger for quite some time, and they're now inside V'ger, and I think they understand now that it's a ship, and every computer has, a CPU. You say obviously like it's not obvious, but it really is obvious.
When do those devices reach final position?
27 minutes. Mark.
They're already in Earth's atmosphere. It's gonna take a goddamn half an hour for them to get in position? The fuck?
Yeah, because firstly they're in orbit, I think, and they're getting in equidistant positions. Is that the right phrase? I'm not sure. Basically, they want to totally devastate the surface of the planet for maximum, destruction. So that's why they're gonna take 27 minutes. Like that's pretty clearly explained.
Instead of transporting anywhere closer to the target, these assholes go elevator then spacewalk for maximum film runtime.
This is, well, for a few reasons, but one, V'ger, this probe kind of leads them to V'ger. The probe hasn't given them V'ger's coordinates. And two, I'm trying to remember why they do walk. They say, he says here for maximum film runtime, but fairly sure they step on here and then it cuts to them arriving, so it's not even a tremendous amount of runtime, actually. I think they just wanted to show that, where they are relative to the Enterprise.
Why did none of you wear a fucking...
Also, they're not sinning the fact that this dome is, like, so the saucer is, like, way too curved. Like, this dome is massive. It more resembles the original series Enterprise, I think, than the refit. Why are none of you wearing a spacesuit, right?
Spacesuit? God damn. Is there air? You don't know. They've gone...
You do know, because they literally detected an oxygen envelope encompassing the Enterprise. Also, he's not going to comment on the matte painting here that looks kind of bad? No? Okay. Hang on. They've gone... Hang on. They've gone too far...
Way too far in this movie to ever be in a place where they don't show the entire walk to V'ger's brain.
Hang on. Is he complaining that, one, they're padding out the runtime with a walk, and two, they don't show the entire walk? I feel like I'm in... What? I feel like I've gone insane here. How do people watch this and then upvote it and then think, oh yeah, I'm going to leave a comment here telling you how good this was? I don't understand how this video got millions of views. How do CinemaSins get millions of views?
Ever be in a place where they don't show the entire walk to V'ger's brain?
V'ger. V'ger.
V'ger understands the drama of the situation and lets out an inception grunt of approval.
Yeah, it's a bit ambiguous whether that is the soundtrack or just the sound that V'ger makes. I don't know if it's ever acknowledged that people can hear that sound, but you know what? I'll just kind of leave that one as is, I suppose.
Well, wait a second. Why does V'ger think it's V'ger based on one little smudgy nameplate? With all its vast knowledge, wouldn't it know that it's Voyager? What part of V'ger's brain casually looked at a physical nameplate and said, yep, that's my name, all right. Time to rule the universe.
Okay, few things here. Firstly, V'ger's objective is not to rule the universe. That was never a thing. Secondly, it's directly stated that V'ger was, it was found in a damaged state, lost in space, and then some aliens rebuilt it. And yeah, it's pretty reasonable to assume the aliens were like, okay, well, this is the name of this thing, I guess. Vija. Cool. Like, I feel like most of this information is either implied or just not necessary to know for the sake of the film.
Right, time to rule the universe.
They built this entire vessel so that Voyager could actually fulfill its programming.
And on its journey back, it amassed so much knowledge, it achieved consciousness itself.
Yeah, but what kind of knowledge was it gathering to become conscious? It's in space. It's not like it's connected to the internet or something. It might be able to tell you the chemical composition of Jupiter, but it never got rejected for the prom, or whatever the triggering event is that makes...
Yeah, no. So, Jupiter. Composition? Fairly sure it's, yeah, primarily hydrogen and helium. So that's not even a particularly complex stellar thing that you're measuring here. But yeah, sorry, I just wanted to point that out because that's such a stupid thing to say, oh, the chemical composition of Jupiter, like it's something intelligent. No, it's like 2 elements. But yeah, no, he goes on here to talk about some weird thing, some life events that made him ponder life. But you got to remember, V'Ger is also gaining information on like loads of stuff, not just stellar bodies. Because we saw V'Ger gain information about planets. He's what was it that Spock said in the memory chamber? The Epsilon 9 stored here in every detail. So it's heavily implied that V'Ger, can absorb vast amounts of information, not just about stellar objects, but about biological beings, because you see Ilea there in the memory banks, and then also it can absorb the memory banks of other machines as well. And also even entire planets. So can you imagine it absorbing information about the, an entire planet's population? All of those memories and experiences that you now just have access to. Yeah, because we're shown that V'Ger can store information about an entire planet, because that is what Spock points out. So it's just one of these things where you just watch the film and it's clear. It feels like I'm pointing out the obvious because, quite frankly, I think I am.
Makes us ponder the big questions in life. V'Ger speaks, but it's less intelligible than my neighbor's dogs.
What does this mean? V'Ger speaks, but it's less intelligible than my neighbor's dog. Dogs, plural. Like, is he just making fun of sound effects happening? I don't get it.
That's what it's been signaling. Its readiness to transmit its information.
And there's no one on Earth who could recognize the old signal and send a response.
Earlier in the movie, this thing was communicating on a frequency that was so fast the Enterprise could not talk to it because the ship's signal was too primitive. Now they're saying V'Ger's trying to use a 300-year-old signal after it was modified into much better technology?
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much it. Yeah, so V'Ger has an onboard radio from 300 years ago that it's now trying to use because that's what its kind of end of life sequence kind of dictates it should use. Like, again, common sense. This is just in the film.
Just 5 minutes from the end, this movie's still threatening to put me to sleep.
I mean, just a few minutes from the end of this video, you're threatening to throw me off a bridge. Well, you're not threatening to throw me off a bridge. You're threatening my mental state to the point where I want to throw myself off a bridge.
Peter must join with V'Ger.
I'm in love with a fake-ass alien clone of my former girlfriend face.
It's not a clone. It's not a clone. It is a probe. It is a probe that is a duplicate of the original Ilea, but it's not a clone.
You mean this machine wants to physically join with a human?
Amazingly, yes. That's exactly what this machine wants to do, even though just 4 minutes ago its probe said this.
That is not logical. Carbon units are not true life forms.
Yet somehow the machine circled back on this through all the exposition we just heard, and it will now accept a carbon life form as the creator.
Yeah, because we just proved that the carbon-based units are the creator. And, yeah, we go through a lot in the film about, things like how Vija considers the creator, it's God, and a variety of other elements as well, about kind of total logic, emotions, how Vija itself is kind of an infantile life form in that it doesn't understand so many basic things about the universe. So this, like, a lot of things happen in the film where this is actually, this makes sense. We get to this point through Journey, but if you just cut to the end without any cut to the end and cut all the explanation out of it, yeah, it doesn't make sense. You're right. If you remove all context that the film provides you, well done. The film doesn't make sense.
Captain Von Future Pedophile McDaddy disappears in...
Oof. Okay, this is not a very tasteful joke. Captain Future. Well, I'm just going to say this right now. Chronologically, this guy's already a paedophile. Like, chronologically speaking, during the filming of this, he's already done stuff. So, yeah, Future here, not correct. If you're going to start making pedo jokes, at least get it right,
in a hail of alien lights, and I'm honestly just ready to go to bed, y'all. And V'ger was never seen again. It attained the answers to its questions and moved to a farm in Idaho and had 3 android kids.
Yeah, I get that's a reference, but it's just such a bad joke, to be honest. And then your final one is just like a pedo joke again. Really? That's really weird. Like, at the end of this video, you just had like a just sprinkling of pedo jokes. Just like a final note to end on. There's so many different lines that you could have tagged here for your sin tag, but instead you just chose to make one up for like a pedo joke that wasn't even funny. There wasn't even a playdate in the film. This doesn't even reference the film. It's just Stephen Collins is a pedo, we're gonna make a joke about it. Like, okay. Like, if you're gonna make pedo jokes, make pedo jokes. If you're gonna make jokes about any subject, make them. But the whole point of a joke is it's meant to be amusing. Or at least make some amount of, sense, I guess. If someone tells a joke and your response is just confusion, then that's kind of a shitty joke. Right, let's see what else they have to offer. Call the hotline to narrate your own sins. What the hell is that?
Gotta admit one thing. Can't beat the view. So what do you like about being up here?
Starfleet.
Okay, so they just did like a gravity thing over the spacewalk?
Do you have them?
Enterprise. What we got back didn't live long.
And it exploded.
I don't think it did explode, but I get the comedic joke there. I don't hear that and think. I don't hear that and immediately confused as to what they're referring to. I get the joke. It's just not actually that funny. Like, I think there are tiers of jokes. So you've got like jokes where I am laughing and crying, jokes where I am laughing, and then jokes where you just kind of do a bit of a chuckle. And then it just kind of goes all the way down to kind of briefly exhale through your nose, and this is below that. This is just stone face,
Of all the souls I have encountered in my travels, his was the most human.
Okay, so they just overlaid Star Trek II Spock's funeral over the briefing. You know what? It would have made more sense if they had Commander Branch. That's the guy that's the commander of the space station. It would make more sense if they had him on screen here, as opposed to just kind of cutting straight to here. Just show him briefly die.
All the souls I
Recording!
human.
I'm gonna try and kiss
I don't know what that is in reference to, but the audio mixing on that was really bad.
Miles per hour!
I think that's just a joke about the ship going really slow.
Here it comes.
That's okay. That's mental. So they literally got Star Wars music, played it over Star Trek, and yet they don't have the balls to play the Star Trek theme for longer than 1.5 seconds. Mental.
If we can control it, persuade it, use it.
Oh yeah, here comes Kool-Aid, here comes Kool-Aid.
Okay, that one I get that one. That one's quite good because she just breaks through the door and the Kool-Aid man break. Yeah, all right, fair enough. That's a genuine joke. Well done.
What I can do about it, kid, I'm full power. I'm gonna have to shut down. They're not gonna get me without a fight.
You can't win, but there are alternatives to fighting.
Okay. I guess that's because two ships were drawn in by a tractor beam, and so they're kind of referencing that, I guess. Don't know, that's the only link I can think of there.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
I am the key man.
Okay, that's just like random dialogue playing over Star Trek. It's like, I say random. I know it's 2001 Space Odyssey, but like, yeah, just what? You know, like, it's just mental.
Master.
I am the gatekeeper.
Mr. Sulu, ahead warp 1.
Warp 1, sir.
Heading, sir?
Oh, fun fact. These two gentlemen here, whoever their names are, these two extras, they switch uniforms because these bands change color from when they're out on Vija and when they're here. So that's a fun little sin that Jeremy missed, but is showing kind of right now.
Second star to the right. And straight on till morning.
Yeah, so that was pretty bad. I'm not gonna watch the next one. I'm gonna leave it here, because this has been 2 hours nearly of debunking Jeremy's wonky stuff. Let's take a look at so we've got 23,000 likes on a video with 1.6 million views. That's actually really low. That's a really low like ratio. Yeah. Oh, that's not really rule number one, dude. That's just, if you're watching Star Trek, it would be a bit shit if the story was, oh well, the Enterprise isn't close enough to do anything about that, so we're just gonna kind of follow Spock's daycare routine or whatever. No, sorry, skincare routine. Sorry, daycare routine. Yeah, like that would be like it would be terrible. Like 40 minutes of just watching Captain Kirk prepare breakfast and or brunch for his I don't know. That would just be terrible, wouldn't it? Like, of course, Star Trek rule number one: the ship. There's it's not just the Enterprise. It's the Defiant or Voyager or whatever. Like that's the basis of the TV show. 4-minute nostalgia shot was a huge highlight. Okay, this guy knows what's up. Lost Archangel. 100% you're right here. Yeah. Dual focal length thing is a diopter. Okay, I like some of these comments actually. I didn't think these because initially I thought, okay, the majority of this was just going to be circle jerking cinema sins. No, quite a lot of them were kind of either correcting on or directly shitting on Jeremy, which I like to see. Yeah. Yep. So that mentions the whole wormhole thing where Jeremy just didn't pay attention. It mentions again where Jeremy didn't pay attention when he said, "Ooh, who's Spock talking to?" Her name is pronounced Ilea. Yep. So basically, Jeremy doesn't watch even the clips he's reacting to. Before they go Walker and Vija, he says, yeah, I read an oxygen gravity envelope outside the Enterprise. Yep. So well done, Talos. I'm very impressed. And also I get that reference. 1963. Because that's Jason and the Argonauts, I think. Which also has some really fun practical effects and stop motion effects. Anyway. Not even as cool as the Enterprise. Yep, cool. I mean, I agree that is such a stupid sin to make. I'm not saying, oh, it's more, the Enterprise is more cool than the Millennium Falcon. I'm not going to debate which one is more cool, but I'm going to say the debate that one is cooler than the other is just stupid. Yeah, well, love it. Okay, well, some people are easily amused. Robert Wise directed The Day the Earth Stood Still and the Andromeda Strain. Also, he edited Citizen Kane, so that's two. I didn't know about Citizen Kane. That's nice insight. Yeah, not even as cool. Okay. Yeah, I like that reference. That's the one where we see Core for the first time as well, I think. Yep. Cool, that's fine. It was Gene Roddenberry's decision to reuse the theme. Well done. That's racist. Ding. Okay. I like that as a joke. That's quite funny. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, because you gotta remember, by that point, they only had the original series, so, let's not forget, yeah, Robert Wise, he has done sci-fi films. What do you mean, who's Spock talking to? It's clear he's recording a log. Yep. That's not a sin. That's not understanding the obvious. Cool. I like this. This is in reference to...
Bones would be amazing at CinemaSins.
Yeah. Bones would be amazing at CinemaSins. Where is it? God damn it. Damn it, CinemaSins. He's a doctor, not a YouTuber with demoralizing student debt. I like it. Yeah, honestly, I'm impressed by some of these comments. Yeah, okay. You know, my faith in, and especially the like to view ratio, that's really good. I mean, if we bring up a calculator here, so we've got 1.6 million. Oh no, sorry, we want to do 23,000 divided by 1.6 million. And then times that by 100. Okay, so yeah, 1.4% of people who viewed this actually liked it. Good on you guys. Good on you. Anyway, I will do, I don't know, The Wrath of Khan, I suppose, next. If you do want to support me, you can do so on Patreon. The cost of buying this film on Amazon was, I think, about £3.99. So I would love to recover that cost, but not absolutely vital. But yeah, otherwise, I will just end the video right here.